Hi, everybody. Dion Major here, CEO of Inside Sales by Design, as well as salesclass.ai. And thank you for joining our podcast, Universal Sales Truths. We started this podcast to share stories and journeys of universal sales truths, meaning what was true to forge a relationship with clients in the past. It was true in the past and will be true today and will be true tomorrow. And so we're bringing guests to you and speakers that have amazing backgrounds and experience to share pieces and parts of their journey and their stories. And we know that you will be inspired and you will learn something and hopefully get some folks to connect with as well and broaden your circle and your network, because that's what this life and world is all about, are the human connections we make at the end of the day. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for listening to the Universal Sales Truth podcast. And we hope to hear from you soon. And I know that you're going to leave inspired. Hey, everybody, Dion Major here, Universal Sales Truths podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. Also the founder of Inside Sales by Design. Although in the world of 2020 and 2021, I think all sales has kind of become a portion of inside sales, but that's a topic for another day. We're joined today with Timothy. And so again, I know you're all going to love this conversation we're having, bring in different stories out for everybody to hear, as well as different truths in our world of sales. So Tim, thank you so much for joining today. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Dion.
Absolutely. So we always start our podcast and just, again, thank you for joining. And we're so happy to have you here. And again, the purpose of this podcast is just share the different stories, the different journeys that we all have, because they're all different and the same, all rolled into one. So we'd love to hear a little bit about you and your background and your journey so far in your career.
Yeah, of course. Well, once again, thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
So I'll start a little bit farther back to give you an idea of myself and the background and why sales has really just transformed, my life and had such an impact. So I come from a smaller town and huge sports background. So I think growing up, sports, playing professional soccer was like my number one goal.
Oh,
yeah. And I came from a background where my mom's an educator, so she's a professor at the University of Tampa. And being from a more small town, you see success in people that are doctors and lawyers and attorneys in the medical field, things like that.
yeah.
So my goal was always to do that. So I actually have my degree in chemistry. And yeah, so when I go out and pursued my dream, I was able to play overseas, and that was incredible. But when I came back, I started looking at jobs around with a degree in chemistry. And I realized there's not a lot out there unless you want to go back to school. And at the time, a good friend of mine that I had met in college had interviewed at a cool tech startup 5 years ago. And he said, "Hey, I think you should interview. I think you should apply to the job." And I was on my way. I was looking for jobs in hospitality. I had been a valet in college, so I knew there was good money in hospitality. I was
Absolutely.
I'm going to come back to Tampa. I'm going to work, make some money, and then get back to go to pharmacy school and go to school for a few more years and come out and do that. And I'm so thankful that he told me to go interview to this role because, looking back 5 years, it's been an incredible journey. And I go to the interview, and everyone's wearing, everyone's wearing golf shirts and casual clothes. I'm sitting on a beanbag for the interview. I remember getting the offer that night, and I was just elated. The base was more than I'd make starting out with a college, a degree in chemistry, and then I could double that, and I could earn more than a pharmacist if I really worked hard within a year. It was really motivating. And I think from there, I really decided that this was going to be a career of mine and not just something that I fell into and not just a hobby. And I think I've been extremely fortunate to work with sales leaders and other extremely motivated sales professionals to take it to the next level. So it was a great learning experience, and it was being in tech, being for a startup. I found out that things can end pretty quickly, so that came to a close. That was an amazing job, worked with amazing people, and then we ended up ceasing operations, and then it actually led to something better. So the entire team got picked up from Outreach.io, and that was back in 2017. It was Outreach. And really, really got a good view into how a good sales development function is built, how to motivate and how to create career paths for sales development, and some of the just fundamental skills of sales, of just understanding your buyer, really, really speaking to pains and problems and value over product. And it was a really good foundation. So I had left Outreach to build out a sales development team at Datanyze, which got acquired by ZoomInfo. And then, so that was an interesting part of my career. And then I went and worked with some other colleagues I had worked with at Kite Desk, and started building out the sales development function at LivePerson, and was there for 2 years. Helped build out our enterprise team, help manage our mid-market team, help onboard some of the EMEA reps, and really got to see what it was like to oversee more of a global function, which was really exciting. And
that's cool.
Experiencing some tremendous growth. It was also interesting too to just see some of the transition after COVID happened, where in March things dramatically changed, and got to manage teams remote. And then in about October of last year, I joined Collective Eye, and I think this was one of the reasons why I hopped on this podcast, is because I am passionate about sales and the career, and I think we've just seen the tip of the spear in what transformation we're going to see. The past 5 years has been pretty crazy with things like Outreach and coming to market. I think the next 5 is going to be even crazier, and sales in 10 years may be a bit unrecognizable with the way so that's where we are today. And now I lead this sales development team at Collective Eye, and committed to bettering the sales profession, and just excited to see where it takes us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And for those of you that are looking for an amazingly written summary on LinkedIn, go to Tim's profile, and his last name is Ensmann, Ensmann. So as I was introduced to Tim and I was looking at his LinkedIn profile, and if you're not doing that, you should, I was blown away at just how well written it was, and how now after talking with Tim and getting to know him even just a little bit, how his summary is written and his LinkedIn profile is exactly how he sounds, and it's spot on. And it's so inviting and so welcoming, and does exactly what it's supposed to do. So kudos to you, Tim, and I love it. And I almost forgot about the whole soccer background. So before we started the podcast, we were talking about just summer and stuff, and our kids, my kids play soccer, and then Tim's background in playing professionally overseas, which is super exciting. And I agree with you, Tim, that the sales in general, and sales is a profession. It's not something you fall into. It's a choice, and it takes work, like any profession, to be good at it. And your career arc is amazing. And I know some of the people, not all, but just some of the people at the companies you were mentioning, and the brain power and the brain trust there is tremendous, right? And so when you think about your career, and I'm sure there's more than 2 or 3, but think about, can you share with us maybe, the top 2 to 3 moments that were, they're super crystal clear in your head, and it was kind of one of those moments it was a transition moment, or it was a very clear decision point?
Yeah. There's been quite a few. I'll have only 3 though. So I think not having exposure to sales growing up, I think there's been a few areas that have really changed my perspective, especially when you're that top performer. And I think it was an aha moment. It was back at Outreach where, you're killing it. You're crushing it. You're doing everything. You're the
Yeah.
top of the leaderboard, all of that. And I had a leader tell me this, and it was really, really helpful advice. And I think you can't wait for someone to tell you what your career path is or what your path is.
100%.
You have to go figure out what you want. First of all, what you want out of life,
Yes.
and then what you want out of your career. And then you have that clear picture in your head of the end goal. And then I think it's easier to work backwards then. A lot of times we think that if I crush it, if I do this, I'm just going to be given this. And a lot of the times it's right in front of you. If you want that next step, if you want to do something, work backwards from what can you be doing today to get there. So I think that was really, really, it was an aha moment for me. It was really important to know, find out what that end goal is and what are you doing today to do that. I actually, I had I was interviewing someone recently, and they were asking, it was great because they're curious, what should I do? Where should I go to research?
Yeah.
What are some of the things? And I said, okay, so what have you done so far to find the answer? And I think there wasn't a lot to that, and it was interesting because it's like, there's Google out there. When I come into issues with, whether that be competition or managing remote culture, I'm going to reach out to people. I'm reaching out to people. I want to talk to people. I'm Googling it, So I think that when you find that, start the Google search. How to start my sales career. Best sales development people to follow. I think that there's a lot of information out there, and you have to be the one that takes the initiative to go find it. And then how are you doing that today? If you want to be, I'll make an analogy to sports, but it's very similar to sports.
It is.
Like if you're not doing it day in, day out, if you don't want to be the best, you're just not getting that practice in. And it's so important. So that's probably the first aha moment. You don't wait for someone to tell you what your path is.
100%.
Define what it is, and then start doing things today around how you're going to get closer to your end goal in life. So that's probably the first thing.
Yeah. Ownership. It's your life. There's so many options. Yeah. So, and I think that's a great message for everybody. Mm-hmm. How about the other one?
The second thing is probably, especially earlier on in your career, I'd choose people and runway over money all day. So I think, don't get me wrong, money's important. There's some situations in life you need that stability, a few extra dollars, but you should really think about things, roles you pick, opportunities you take on a lifelong timeline, not 1, 2, or 3 years. Mm-hmm. Certain people, I've been a benefactor of this, have had exponential impact on your life and your career. How are you thinking? You're thinking bigger. That directly impacts your earnings, your career, the people that you work with, the people that want to work with you. So when I say, choose people, that's important, is you want to make sure you have runway from those people too. Have they done things you want to do? Are they in a place you want to be? Do you respect their approach? Do you respect how they, communicate with people? Do you respect them as a leader? Do you respect the way they think? And I think that it's, if it's the right type of person too, they're going to have that growth mindset and be continuous learners as well. Yeah. So that's probably the second thing, is just the people in runway earlier on will have a dramatic impact in your life along with your career.
I couldn't agree with you more, Tim. And I think sometimes maybe we're not as deliberate with our career as we can be, or maybe should be. And I agree with you. And there's a variety of reasons for it, right? And so, but to your point, if you're somebody who is ambitious, and I mean that in a good way, right? Not all ambition is bad. But if you are, we are, whoever is that person as far as drive and ambition and all that good stuff, absolutely what you're saying rings really true, right? Make sure you're surrounding yourself with people that make you better, right? Iron sharpens iron. And the old phrase of, you can't soar with the eagles if you're stuck down with the turkeys.
Yep.
and sometimes we're with the Eagles, and sometimes we're an Eagle, and sometimes we're the turkey, right? So there's a path of continuous improvement as well. So again, I think that's such a great career lesson to keep in mind, because it's easy to get complacent, and complacency kills at the end of the day. So I love it. I love it. It's so good. And your career arc again has been so amazing and tremendous. And the opportunities like you were talking about is definitely echoes a lot of the things that you're talking about. And so when you think about sales, like you were saying, what is something that you're like, yes, I love this particular thing about sales? And then the converse of that, right, is, man, I really don't like this particular piece.
Yeah. So if you haven't gotten by now, I'm just by nature a pretty positive person.
Yeah.
So I don't think I hate many things.
No.
Probably the thing that may bother me the most
Yeah.
is comes from a sports background again. So I think,
Yeah.
there's a saying in sports, you're only as good as your last game. And
Yeah.
I think there is an issue with how visible people's careers are,
Yeah.
that sometimes it holds more weight than their actual abilities or commitment to learn or adapt in a new environment, which I think is even more critical now.
I
So
agree.
I
Yeah.
think it's a great thing how much opportunity is out there,
Yeah.
how many jobs are in the market, how we have access now to this new candidate pool being remote and this new opportunity.
Mhm.
And I will, like, it is sometimes frustrating because being in
Yeah.
sales, you see that ability to negotiate, get a better role and all of that, based off of 2 games ago, maybe not your last game or true fits for what the organization needs. So it's tough. That's on everyone. I think hiring's, it's difficult to find that culture fit, find those, the growth mindsets, and do that. So I think that's just in general. I'm not.
Yeah.
I think in general it's tough because there's so many opportunities out there, and there's so much you can do to
Yeah.
have that previous experience. So I think that's probably the pet peeve or the thing I
I
like.
agree. Yeah, I agree with you. I think what I'm hearing is kind of going back to being deliberate and intentional with a career arc and hiring and your who's on the bus in your organization, right? And as much as I want to say anybody can do anything, there's not, that's not an absolute truth, right? I'm 5'2", and without the help of a springboard and or a trampoline, will never really dunk a basketball. I'm okay with that, right? And so I think, to your point, there's an analogy that can be wide ranging. And so and I think I might have an idea of what your answer would kind of be about this. So what is the one thing that you really love about the sales profession and just think, wow, this is amazing?
Yeah, I think it's just like we were just talking about this before, but it's kind of that aha moment when you see other people and they realize that they're capable of thinking bigger and raising just what they can get out of life,
Mhm.
and realizing the ability of the impact that they can have on their community, on their families, on all of that. So I think that's really, really, really rewarding, and that's something that is exciting too.
Yeah, I agree with you, Tim. So before we started recording the podcast today, we were talking about just the joy that we get when we're in a meeting with our team or leaders, or we're learning or we're teaching, and you see that aha moment. You see that click and that awareness in the other person's eyes, which is so cool. And sometimes if you're on Zoom, you got to look a little closer,
Yeah.
but it's so true. So Tim, as your kind of, again, amazing storied career so far and so much more to go, I look forward to seeing all of that. When you think about a universal sales truth, right, and with your team now, just top of mind today, what would that one universal sales truth for today be?
So we recently had the CEO of, or the former CEO of Guardian Life Insurance Company at one of the forecasts. We hold an event for Collective Eye weekly, and it's really about that, having that growth mindset, learning from each other. And I think she said something that's probably the truest thing I've ever heard. I think this is just in general. Like, if you want to be successful moving forward, you're going to have to learn how to learn. What got you here today isn't going to get you there. If you're not dedicated in, becoming an expert at your craft and understanding how things are continuously changing, it's never going to be a true career. And I think we have the advantage, some cases disadvantage, of having so much information at our fingertips and the ability to connect with people, read books, read podcasts, like just continuously learning. And that's going to be so crucial. Actually, we had another forecast speaker who was speaking about the how AI and how technology is going to impact us. And we need to differentiate by thinking more humanly, being more creative, being able to tell stories, being able to draw emotion, things like that, because those are the areas that technology we're still a little far out from. And the more that we do that, the more successful you're going to be. So I think that was basically the number one thing, is just being able to learn how to learn, because technology is going to weed out the people that don't want to think, that don't want to learn, because all those repetitive tasks are going to be handled. So it's
the digitization of the assembly line at the end of the day, for sure. I think that is a spot on piece for sure. Learning to love how to learn. I couldn't agree with you more on that one too. So what we end every podcast, and again, thank you so much for joining us today. And we always end our podcast with, hey, if you haven't connected with me on LinkedIn, please be sure to do so. And then Tim, what is the best way for people to get with you or even learn more about Collective Eye?
Yeah, please connect with me on LinkedIn. You can also send me an email. It's my first initial last name at collectiveeye.com. So TENSMANN at collectiveeye.com. On that thought, learning how to learn, come to a Collective Eye forecast event. We hold weekly events. The person last night, Kai-Fu Lee, he is world renowned on AI research and how AI is going to impact society. And he was there last night, and just an extremely engaging, interesting, valuable session. So I think that, with that same note, it's our job to continue to learn from each other and connect and grow. And that's really the value. That's the reason why I joined Collective Eye, is because that is our mission. So join the forecast, come learn something, come connect with me. And always open to share ideas and best practices.
I love it. I will have to join one of those calls. They sound pretty amazing.
Yeah, I always walk away like my head hurts a little bit.
Yeah, but that's a good thing too, to your point, the growth mindset, because again, it's easy for us to just get into a loop, right? And so, which isn't bad, right? Consistency breeds success. However, right, you have to give it a little kick every once in a while.
Yep, exactly.
Good stuff. Well, Tim, again, thank you so much for being here. Everybody, thanks for tuning in again. And we look forward to seeing you on our next one. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, Dion.
Thanks, Tim. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Universal Sales Truth Podcast. Please make sure that you subscribe to our podcast so you're notified of updates. You can also find this content on the Inside Sales by Design YouTube channel. So make sure you take a look at that. It'll also be in the salesclass.ai platform for you and your teams. And please make sure to reach out and connect with myself and the speaker you heard today individually. We look forward to seeing you again soon, and contact us if there's anything you specifically want to hear or know about. Thank you so much, and enjoy your day.